evening. Thank you so much for joining us for Monday's edition of the Diamond, I almost said Diamond Breakfast. Diamond Live, it's the People's Edition. It means that throughout the program, you can come through and call in and give us your contribution regarding the issues that are going to be discussing on the table tonight. We invite you to call in and give us those contributions, but also take advantage of our social media platform. We are streaming this program live on our Facebook page at Diamond TV Online. So if you haven't liked the page yet, or if you haven't seen what we post on the page, you can type in Diamond TV Online on your Facebook search bar and you find Diamond TV. And you can be interactive with us tonight. My name is Andrew Mwansa.
And my name is Jimwega Chileshe. On the 16th of February, as we wind down the day, we get into tonight's edition. Not the Diamond Breakfast, Andrew's Diamond Live. But I go through that a lot as well. You do different shows, different programs. For me, who also does radio, you'll be there, about to say Phoenix Breakfast. But you spoke about the different discussions we're having on the table. I have a show called On the Table, Weekend Marathon, Real-Time News. So I totally understand you. But it's Diamond Live that we're here for, and looking forward to interacting with you as the show goes by tonight. By the way, how was your Valentine's weekend?
It was good. My Valentine's was good. I spent time with my wife. How's your Valentine's?
It was good. It was good. It was had a very, very eventful one, but it was good.
Who do you spend time with?
Well, a lot of different people. A lot of different people. At an event, I put together an event over the weekend, so I spent a lot of time with a lot of strangers, also a few people that I knew, but it was good. It was good. Business-wise, it was good.
You didn't carry along your girlfriend?
I have so many friends who happen to be girls or ladies. I don't know what you want to call them. Women. I don't know what you want to.
That's nice, Chueka. That's really nice. Yeah, that's really nice.
Well, it's again Vida up to something, but I don't know what it is. But it's fine.
No, but I think my question was just very easy because I spend time with my wife, and I know that Valentine's is not necessarily a time to spend. It's not a period to spend your time with those that are considered to be partners that you're romantically involved with. Yeah. But even your mother could be your Valentine. So I was asking specifically for someone that you're romantically with, your girlfriend. So, and so I was saying,
are you telling me something? Is something I do not know? But anyway, Andrew, it's sort of about us tonight. It's about you, the viewer, watching us at home, to interact. Not about Valentine's Day, but about some of the stories that have made news throughout the day. And that's why we'll be recapping on this, isn't it?
One of the biggest stories of the day today is the fact that the South African Police Service is investigating the alleged poisoning of former President Edgar Lungu, who died on June 5th, 2025. Mr. Lungu remains unburied amid a protracted legal battle between the Zambian government and the Lungu family regarding his burial site. In a letter dated February 11th, 2026, lawyers representing the Lungu family from Mashele attorneys denied the poisoning allegations, describing them as unfounded and unsupported by credible evidence. When this came up, I think the first time that this came up was in South Africa. From what I can remember, when Comrade Raphael Nakachinda, who then was a Patriotic Front Secretary General, was having an interview. He alleged on a program, I think it was an SABC program on Newsroom Africa, interview, that they suspect that the death of President Lungu wasn't a natural one, and they suspect that there could possibly be some foul play, and which obviously entailed that there was some form of food poisoning. Not food poisoning, there was poisoning actually. I think we did ask him again on this program when on Diamond Live, Honorable Nakachinda, on what he really meant when he said that there was poison. And he said, I meant what I meant. Though the investigations, according to him, says the investigations are going to tell us exactly what could have, taken the life of President Edgar Lungu. And obviously here, the South African police have taken interest in wanting to investigate the poisoning of President Edgar Lungu and they've reached out to the attorneys, the lawyers the lawyers of the family of the Lungus, and in their response, the Lungus are saying that that allegation is unfounded and is not supported by any type of evidence. The backroot issue here, Chimweka, is that there's been some form of mistrust, especially from the side of the Lungu family, because I think what is coming out is the fact that at all cost, people want to see the body of President Lungu, want to have access, to the body of, of President Lungu. We've seen them raise alarm. We've seen also a spokesperson of the Lungu family, Makebi Zulu, back in, back sometimes, I think some 2 months ago, having to suggest also that the government has been doing everything possible to want to have access to the body of former President Lungu, and so that is what's happening.
Andrew, when we hear anything to do with what's happening from South Africa, I think it's a bigger reminder for the nation on where we're at. I think sometimes people, I think sometimes as a country we forget that we still have a former president who has remained unburied. And this has been the case for a number of people. Of course, not everyone. I mean, there are others who maybe still might be thinking about it every day. But I think for a larger number of people have gotten to move on and have different focuses for each particular day that goes by. But every single time we have another or fresh update, it's a reminder to us that we still have a sixth Republican president who has not been buried, whether it's abroad or in the country. And it's really a call for us to really, as a country, just get to unite. I tend to think myself, we have an election that will be coming up this year, 2026. Will he be buried before this particular election? I know there's been also fresh updates in terms of, the information coming through from the courts over there, but that still remains a bigger conversation in this country. And what will happen? Are we going to see the government here get to unite with the family over there? Would there be an amicable resolution towards this? I think that's what this brings up all together. And we really hope that unity will prevail as these matters get to be resolved. But I mean, hearing around this, again, at the same time, he who alleges must prove, isn't it? And that's what it, again, also takes us back to, because the investigations into the alleged poisoning of former president, because these are strong allegations, and if you're going to talk about a former president being poisoned, those are strong allegations. And people need to know the truth, people need to find out the truth, and therefore he who alleges must prove. Must prove.
Well, like I said earlier on, the lawyers of the Lungu family are describing, the allegation as false. They're describing the allegation as lacking evidence, and so it's the Lungu family who are saying that, look, there's no ground on which you would want to conduct a DNA on a body that we feel wasn't poisoned but died a natural death. And so the Lungu family here technically saying that, look, there was no poisoning whatsoever. You know what I mean? If I could read what the letter further says the lawyers further stated that it has come to the attention that a subpoena was issued to Mr. Mpo Minisi of Two Mountains Funeral Services. This is where the body of President is lying, directing that the body of the late former president be released into the custody of the South African Police Service. The Lungu family's lawyers described the subpoena as concerning, noting that there are existing court orders directing that possession and custody of Mr. Lungu's body remain with Two Mountains Funeral Services pending the finalization of the legal proceedings. They stated that the court orders are binding and remain in force. Additionally, they submitted that leave to appeal has been granted by the Supreme Court of Appeal and that appeal remains active. The lawyers argue that in the absence of a judicial variation or further order authorizing removal, no person or entity is legally permitted to act inconsistently with those directives. The Lungu family has since threatened to take legal action should the court orders be contravened. Very clear here. The Lungu family have argued according to the law, and they're describing the subpoena to be quite concerning because, according to them, the South African police must understand that what was granted to them is binding. and that there's no legal entity or nobody, that could have access to the body of former President Lungu with that, leave still active, the appeal, still being active before the Supreme Court.
You know what I'm also thinking about now? Because again, even when the Faction Secretary General, Mr. Rafael Nakachinda, I guess he still holds that position, despite his current situation, him being jailed. And when he spoke about the possibility of foul play not being ruled out, because those were his words, that they cannot rule out the possibility of foul play earlier. I wonder if this, even from the international side, even abroad, if this still counts as what we like to say usually in our Zambian setup from traditional sayings, that he is mourning. I mean, you can't hold the mouth of a person who is mourning. I don't know if that applies in this particular case. Wow. I mean, now the setting gets to be different. I know we commonly hear that over here in Zambia.
What's more concerning, Chimweka, is that those allegations were made just a few days after President Edgar Lungu had died. We are almost clocking a year, all right? On the 5th of June, we'll be clocking a year since President Lungu died. And now, what has taken the South African police all this while, for them to take interest, over what was said? What are dots connecting? What possibly could be the interest of the South African police, wanting to verify if, indeed there was a foul play in this regard, there was poisoning that could have possibly and potentially killed President Edgar Lungu? What could be the intention of the South African police? Those are the questions that people are asking, and that's why the lawyers of former President Lungu, of the family of President Lungu, are saying the subpoena is really concerning. It's really concerning and raises a lot of questions. So I guess the suggestions now of the South African government, the South African police having ulterior motives, and I guess that's what people are insinuating now from all of this. But others would also argue that when you look at some of these issues, it still comes back to the issue of how long. Do crimes offenses ever get old? If somebody commits an offense, even today, Andrew, 3-4 years down the line, they can still follow you for the offense you've committed.
Could be a kind of situation as well in this case. But we have a caller who would love to contribute on this particular topic, calling in from right here in Lusaka. Good evening.
Got in a rural area, the west.
Mr. Kaira Banda.
Sir?
Yes, sir, please go ahead with your contribution.
I'm saying, mukaenda ku kliniki, ikwate mkumangara kulibe, wakuuza tienda ukagure pa drugstore yaso. Nanga haukamwa pa drugstore wakwanisa kupezeka na mangwara, but government ilibe mungwara. Umaenda kuti ku government mungwara. Monga papa George Clinic, common oxygen, balibe. Mundu akadwala balibe oxygen ompasa wakambati ni vokufa. Wazamchita transfer kumpereka kule vwanu, but pa George Clinic balibe. Na kwebe kuja uzapeza kulirai. Then wakambati wachitachivu. Nanga bimaenda kuti.
Mutamba program Banda?
Nitamba pa, that's why natuma phone.
Okay, ziko mtamvela contribution mwakamba.
Alright, thank you.
Right, that's Kaela Banda calling from the Lusaka. Obviously, his concern is not the Lungu family or what's happening, but his concern is drugs not being available.
You also the health minister yesterday, so I don't know if that was part of the issues.
Yes, it was part of the issues
tackled. And what was his response?
Well, it says that all public health facilities have sufficient medical supplies and medicines.
Okay.
So the availability is above 85%, but also he made it very clear on what essential drugs are. We had about 4 callers that called in complaining of the fact that there's one particular medicine that people are looking for now because it appears there's a problem of eyes that people are developing the recent past, and that drug is not found. So the disease is called glaucoma.
Glaucoma.
Yes, it's a disease, it's an eye disease. And the minister said that government is not currently stocking that medicine for glaucoma because it's not part of the essential drugs that are considered when they're ordering Yeah, so obviously, Banda, your concern has been heard that Coatem is not found, at George Clinic. So we'll take that into consideration. Obviously, authorities are watching and listening.
Well, moving on, that's obviously a Ministry of Health issue, or rather an issue that falls under the Ministry of Health. But moving on to the Ministry of Education, they've also been in the news today, giving clarity on the policy around learners reporting late. I don't know if it's something you commonly experienced while you were in either high school, primary school. I mean, I'll not talk about university because usually that tends to be a whole different ballgame. But I don't know if this is something you... Were you in boarding school or day school?
No,
day school,
I was at Munali Boys.
And how often were you late for class?
I was actually a prefect, so...
Well, out of your years being a prefect. Because you're probably prefect for maximum 2 years.
Just hold your thought
1 year.
We have got Victoria Mumba calling us from Monze. Victoria, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
People, how are you?
Good, Victoria. How are you?
We're very fine here in Monze. Thank you so much for asking.
Thank you. Lusaka is good as well.
Okay.
What's your contribution?
The program, and it's actually amazing that you guys are doing this. So my concern is all this time that this man has been dead, why is it that now the South African government wants to do this? Why is it that they didn't do it there and then when we were so eager to see the body, to have the funeral for the president and everything? Why now? Which is also something that is making me have this preaching where I want to know what really is happening. We now want to know if this man is dead or is alive or something is not right.
Okay.
So thank you so much for this.
Thanks,
we
Victoria.
Want to know.
And I think Victoria has got...
Genuine concern.
Yes, I think it's a genuine concern. I think from the time President Edgar Lungu died, there's a section of people that believe that President Lungu is not dead. That believe so, they think so because they ask questions. Why, for example, hasn't he been buried? Why is it that we haven't seen his body? Those are the questions that get to be asked by those that believe that President Lungu is not dead. But also, this subpoena by the South African police brings us back to raising the very question, or brings people to thinking the very question, that probably the major reason for why the South African police wants to find out whether his death was linked to poisoning is not necessarily because of that, but because they want to really verify whether the body of President Lungu is in the mortuary. These are the questions, and I think for an ordinary Zambian, they would want to believe so, that probably there's something fishy here. I was listening to, I don't know if you listened to it, that interview that Makebi Zulu had. Mr. Makebi Zulu is the spokesperson of the Lungu family. And I think he was being asked how many people have seen the body of President Lungu. And he answered, there's a small number of people that have seen the body of President Lungu. And he confirmed that indeed President Lungu is dead. But there's a very small number of people that have seen that the big man indeed died.
And I know that the questions are continuing to come up, I think, for a lot of people, like you've rightly mentioned. But again, even when people get to ask about why this comes up now, let's also be cognizant of the fact that even at the time of the former president's demise, there was a lot of sensitivity around this issue. There was a lot of even anxiety among certain sections of society, whether there in South Africa or over here. We saw that there was a party from government that even traveled to South Africa for this. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation was among them. And different discussions were held. And people were looking at how exactly is this going to be resolved. Are we going to see the former president being buried in Zambia? So there's a lot that was still being decided, being discussed. And probably even for the police, they probably thought, well, this would not be an ideal time to bring up this particular issue because there's a lot that was still being talked about and possibly to be resolved. The hope, I believe, for so many people and possibly even the South African government and the different institutions is that this would have been resolved a long time ago. But unfortunately, it hasn't. But even as all this is going on, time is going by, and you cannot be completely surprised that it gets to come up now, that we're still seeing these issues going back and forth with the family as well as the government over here.
Let's pick off our third caller from William, calling us from within Osaka. Hello, good evening. Mr. Luamba William. Hello, good evening. All right, you seem to have a challenge there, but you can still come through and give us your contribution. We're discussing a number of issues, and now we are still getting to comment on the Lungu, family. But then later on, we're going to move obviously to the Ministry of Education and them clarifying on the policy on learners reporting late. And so, I think the Zambians have been very consistent on this issue, Chimweka, that. We all are looking forward to have a dignified send-off for our president. Talks between government and the Lungu family clearly haven't worked out, and they've sought the legal way to clearly show that there can't be anything that can be spoken about, because in principle the Lungu family and the government have not agreed on what should be the way forward. And I think the people really have been asking, what are these key issues that government and the Lungu family have really not agreed upon that is so difficult that neither of the parties could bend and say, okay, for the interest of the country, let's do this. And I think one of the things that we understand that has been something very critical that the Lungu family have been keen on is the fact that President Hakainde Hichilema must not see the body.
Must not be present.
Must not be present at the funeral of President Edgar Lungu, and he must not see the body of President Edgar Lungu. And the reasons for why the family is advancing, that is very simple. They're saying this is a man that was mistreated. In fact, Makebi Zulu puts it this way, that even when President Lungu landed in Johannesburg in South Africa, he landed as an ordinary citizen, and in fact used the Yango, for South Africa to get to his hotel room. Those are the words that he had used to that
it has no name of its own. I mean, it's Uber. Yeah, but anyway,
let's go to Eastern Province.
Okay, let's take this call. 256 days of the former president being unburied. Mr. Chris Nyuenda is joining us now. Good evening.
Good evening, Chimweka. Good evening, Mr. There.
Good evening to you, sir.
Yeah, still find it very difficult to understand this funeral, though former president, though Mr. Edgar Lungu is our former president. The most important thing that I wanted to say is Edgar Lungu had the mother. The mother had brothers. Those brothers had children whom Edgar would call cousins, would call nieces, and so forth. But up to now, not even a single uncle, not even a single aunt, cousin, niece, and so forth have come forward to say, okay, let's sit down with our auntie here, or maybe our whatever here, Esther Lungu. Where are these people? Where is the so-called village headman where Mr. Edgar Lungu hauled from? Where are these people? We can't have a woman, a lady who was married to a man championing the whole drama here. I've never seen this. It's a taboo here in Eastern Province, Mr. Chimweka. You can't have a widow who is in charge.
But Mr. Nyuenda,
the dead husband.
Mr. Nyuenda,
yes.
Let's also remember that his sister as well, Madam Bertha Lungu, is also part of the the family members present in South Africa. So it's not it's not just about the widow, is it?
I'm not saying that. You know, here in the Eastern Province, Timakambauti Mariro, when I die, then I should see, people should see both sides of me. Where I've married, my wife will be cancelled, maybe will be her aunties, uncles will sit near her. Then to my side, there will be my uncles, my cousins, whatever, taking charge of the funeral programs. This is what I'm saying. It has to be a two-way thing. But this time, with this, the funeral, Edgar Lungu, we are seeing a woman who is a widow in charge of everything. What about the nephews, the uncles? This is what I'm saying. How about the headmen, where Mr. Edgar Lungu came from?
Okay. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Nyirenda. All right. I mean, why I asked him that, because he says he's strongly been emphasizing on the widow, who is Esther Lungu, but we've also seen that the sister to the late is also present. She's being a part of the family members who have been visible. And again, in as much as people here talk about the other family members, they could be present, but maybe do not want to be in the limelight or to be seen. For example, even someone like the son to former President Lungu, Daiso Lungu, I don't think you have seen images of him being present and being part of the entourage or the team, that the family members who are there in South Africa. But are we going to think that he's not been present, he's not taking time to be there? So maybe some people just have that about them, that they don't want to be seen, they don't want to be public, and maybe they agree with the rest of the family. And even when we talk about funerals, there are certain members of the family who tend to spearhead some of these processes, are key in decision making, and some of the decisions that they get to make is what the rest of the family get to follow. I think we see this in a lot of our family setups that doesn't have a public figure. So maybe that could be a situation here. Maybe the rest do agree. Maybe the others who may disagree, but have not been identified as those who should lead or spearhead what should happen going forward with the family. And let's also remember that what the family here is saying, the family that we've been seeing and has been delivering the message to their spokesperson, they are saying that these were the wishes of the former president, the late president. So even for the other family members to come through on one particular basis, because they were with him as right before he passed on, and if they're saying that these were his wishes, this is exactly what he wanted, then it means that they can use that even to other family members and say these were his wishes, so why should anybody else come in and say otherwise?
I totally understand the question that Mr. Nyirenda is posing, calling us from Katete. He's asking, where are our traditional leaders? Where are the elders of the land to intervene in this situation? I must be so sorry to announce to you, Mr. Nyirenda, that the elders tried. The church tried. Even SADC presidents, former president, tried. Unfortunately, the government of the Republic of Zambia and the Lungu family could not agree on one thing. That's the reason for why this issue has gone to court. And so it's not like people haven't tried. In fact, that even external people, elders of SADC, governments have tried to speak, to agree in principle on how we are going to move forward as a country in regards to the death and the burial of former President Edgar Lungu, but we haven't agreed in principle on which way forward. And the last time we'd gotten an announcement, from the Lungu family before, it proceeded to the next level, was that the doors were still open for negotiation, that the talks haven't stalled, government and the Lungu family are still speaking in the background. But obviously, looking at how far things have gone, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a battle that will end from dialogue. It will end, obviously, in the courtroom, and the court is going to decide which way we're going to go. Because, obviously, there's still another more court to appeal to if they don't get the decision that they are looking for, the Lungu family, they can still go to the other court. And we've seen historically how court processes take time. Whether we are going to bury President Lungu before the next election, it will depend on how fast the wheels of the courts of South Africa are going to move. I know for a fact that the Attorney General, Mr. Mulilo Kabesha, had committed that before the elections we would have buried our former president. I don't know under what circumstances you're saying that probably maybe there's something in the background that the public is not aware, but obviously to depend, it won't depend at its frequency. It will depend at the frequency of how the court is going to move in South Africa.
And it's good you mentioned the aspect of all the people who have tried and mentioned that they've been a part of these processes, but unfortunately it's not yielded results. You speak of former presidents, and they've just put themselves aside and said, let's see how this will go ultimately. But over here, one of the big questions that has been there, and it's been there for a while, is one of the conditions that has been given by the family there, and that's around President Hakainde Hichilema's presence. There's also been a huge debate. Should President Hichilema just retreat? Should he just, for the sake of all this moving on, should he just heed to that and stay away from this particular from this particular funeral, the burial, and let, yes, the other institutions of government take lead, control the situation, but he himself, he as an individual, perhaps the presidency can still be involved, but he as an individual staying away. Should this be a consideration? Should this be a consideration of the way forward? What is the worst case scenario?
That would happen,
What's the worst case scenario if he does not be present for the burial and the proceedings before that? Because that has been another conversation. And the truth of the matter is that very big. Fact. And let's remember that a lot of us as Zambians, we live in a country where people are very superstitious.
Yeah.
People are very superstitious. So people could easily make different conclusions. Already some people have made conclusions on possibly why the family don't want the current president to see the body or to be present for the funeral processions. Again, some people have also made their own conclusions, superstitious conclusions, to why President Hakainde Hichilema and the government have insisted that he's present for these processions. So there's really a lot going on both sides. But the big question is, what's the worst that could happen? If President Hichilema is not present?
I personally don't think that President Hakainde Hichilema would refuse. I don't know, but I personally, from...
Maybe let's call him and find out.
I don't have my phones with me.
Yeah.
But I think having to know him as our head of state, but also having shared some relationship, with him before he became president and as a source, I don't think it's a difficult, person to reach an extent that by all cost you'd want to ensure that he sees the body of former President Lungu for whatever reason. And I think this is where now the big question really lies. Is it really just about President Hakainde Hichilema seeing the body, or there's something beyond what we're being told? Because I don't think President Hakainde Hichilema is so unreasonable that would say, you know what, whatever it costs, I must see the body. If I don't see the body, then you're not going to bury in my country.
But that's what it looks like.
I don't think.
But that's what it looks
I
like.
really don't think President Hakainde Hichilema would.
But as it stands, that's what it looks like. Because the family have put that on the cards, they've put that on the table as one of their conditions. Let's also remember there's a point where it looked like we saw some light at the end of the tunnel.
Remember that there were so many conditionalities. But one of the conditions was that the body moves, from Mulungushu to Chifwema and all those things. But just hold your thought, Chimweka. We pick our other caller. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Yes. Are you able to get me?
We can now hear you, my good sir.
Hello, are you able to get me?
We can hear you, sir.
I wanted to differ with Chimweka. Wachilala ndo kwewa ndi bakulu abalungu tabalefo kumonekela. That is a lie. Abo bakola bakukatete bachilande fishing kasana because I come from Eastern Province. Babululu babalungu, they are the ones that are supposed to come out. Ba Esther lungu tabakwete kwensambu kachitumbi chabalume babo. the responsibilities are supposed to be held by the relatives of the late Mr. Lungu. Number Chimwekanga Leland Okwati Yori Mitabalefoku Monekera. What type of relatives are they? Pulu Wawafa and then Baikara Kunu. Because the way things have been observed by Esther Lungu is like she's the one who is making a decision.
Mr. Songwe,
Mr.
Songwe, let me just find out from you. So do you consider the sister, Betha Lungu, as a relative of the former president?
But Betha Lungu tawakwete makabu. Baraba kukatetenga mwanachibompa. Barungu wafira bakwata baiche babu, bakwata bakalamba babu, bakwata nephews, bakwata na uncle. They're the ones who should be making decisions at any funeral. Nangino inenga nafa. My wife is not going to be making decisions. Ninkwata manesio, ninkwata bayama. You talk a lot of those. Not my Esther Lungu, she's the one who is always coming out, making decisions, going to court. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. His contribution has been heard there, but I've noticed that people are disregarding the sister here.
The sister,
but the sister has been present. She's been flanking the spokesperson has been there.
Yeah.
What if you look at even how these briefings have been going on, you see the widow. You also see the sister Betha Lungu, the sister to the late. In some of the briefings, we've also been able to see children like Tasira Lungu and her husband. But there's a sister there. So unless people are saying that the sister also doesn't have any form of authority, or influence, should it only be if it's a male relative? Maybe that's what people want to see. They want to see maybe it was an uncle who was visibly seen. But also, so maybe if it was a real male relative, people would have said, okay, fine, this is the real authority. Maybe that's what people are looking for.
But to believe that the only relative that is in South Africa is Betha Lungu, to believe that is what is true is folly, because there are quite a number of relatives of President Lungu that are in South Africa that are standing in support of the widow, Madam Esther Lungu. But also, Basongwe, what if the Lungu family is in agreement with the decision that has been made, all right? And we are using... We're using assumptions here that probably the Lungu family is in agreement with the position of the wife, all right? And the wife is not only speaking for herself, she's speaking for the family, and she's speaking the voices of the so many family members that can't come out in the open and speak. And obviously, she's not even speaking; they're speaking through the spokesperson.
So in that case, you cannot know who exactly made those decisions, because Mr. Makebizulu is the family spokesperson. He's not the widow's spokesperson. He is the spokesperson of the family. So therefore, even when people are saying it's the widow who's making those decisions, it's an assumption, really. It's an assumption, because when the spokesperson has been speaking, he speaks on behalf of the family. So we cannot really say that it's one person who made that decision. Maybe it wasn't. Could have not been her. It could have been her, yes. But at the same time, the possibility is that it's not her. So as far as we know as a public, we do not know exactly who's behind some of those decisions.
That's true.
When the spokesperson makes a decision. But I understand that people are easily concluding that it's the widow.
Mama Esther Lungu. But also, we agree with you to a larger extent, Vasongo, when you say that the wife has no powers to determine which direction this process must go, because obviously, yes, the wife is not your relative. My wife is not my relative; is my wife. My relatives are those that share the same blood with me, and obviously, they're the ones that have got a much more huge influence. If today I happened to die, and there we agree, with you. We could not have possibly seen the uncles of President Lungu on camera. We could not have seen the aunties on camera. We could not have seen the other relatives on camera. But be rest assured that they're speaking, through their family spokesperson, who is Mr. Makebizulu.
And again, also keeping in mind that for the type of family, for the type of person he was, I think even for certain family members, they would want to be very, very very systematic in their approach towards some of these things. So probably the other family members might be putting that into consideration, that this is a former president we are talking about. It would not be the same kind of situation, Andrew Mansa, for any other person who has held a different position in society or status in society. We're looking at a former president, and this now also gets to public interest because of the position he held. It now becomes public interest. So how these matters get to be handled will have a certain level of sensitivity compared to any other situation. We see this happening. Bring it back to, the ordinary families, if you have to put it that way.
Yeah.
We see these things happen. We see families where people get to have disagreements among themselves. The uncle will say this, maybe this other person will say this, because again, the fact of the matter is that even sometimes children and the wife will also want to put a certain message across or would love for certain things to be done, because you find that they even spent more time with the late than even some of the other relatives.
That's true.
Who, people expect to have this sort of authority. So you find that you spend more time with your father or with your husband. Then you probably have conversations about different things on what exactly you wanted or you wished that maybe the elder brother to the late would have not even known, and so on. So based off that, perhaps they might also want to have some of these wishes, come to life and explaining this to the rest of the family. But whether or not this will get to be actualized is what the bigger question is here. Will the family be able to understand anything less than what has been put on the table through their spokesperson or as stated by their spokesperson, is also what we're looking forward to seeing at the end of the day here. And even back to our earlier question, will the government obey or listen to the wishes that the family have according to what they say the late had mentioned?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out, but the phone lines are still open. You can come through and give us those contributions. Our second story, Chimweka.
Yeah.
The Ministry of Education has clarified misconceptions surrounding the handling of learners who report late for school, stressing that disciplinary measures must not deny pupils their right to learning time. In a statement issued by Permanent Secretary for Education Services, Kelvin Mambwe, says punctuality remains a non-negotiable expectation in schools as it reflects discipline, responsibility, and respect. He notes that late coming is recognized as an offense under school rules and regulations, with corrective measures prescribed to address it. Dr. Mambwe has, however, emphasized that sending learners home as punishment contravenes the ministry's guidelines as it interferes with learning, and he further reminds teachers that corporal punishment remains abolished and strictly prohibited, urging schools to adopt constructive disciplinary approaches that promote reflection and personal growth. Have you ever been chased from school? Not obviously for beating someone, but for going for class late.
No.
Or for insulting.
I love how you're throwing different things around, trying to pin me down towards something. But no, actually, I think no. One time I was. It was a bit of a funny moment. I was actually chased from school because of my hair. I'd not cut my hair, so I was asked to leave and go and have my hair cut, because I used to keep a lot of hair, and I kept it for some time. And the head teacher one day was just going around and getting different people, so it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
I was going around classroom by classroom looking for people with the wrong haircut and getting them out of class. But this particular decision, I mean, mixed reactions have come through.
Yeah.
In fact, when I came across this statement, I thought it was false until I confirmed that it was actually said by the Principal Public Relations Officer, Mr. Clive Kalunga, who, by the way, for those who may not know, was once a part of the Diamond Media family, heading our newsroom, but now under the Ministry of Education. But this was mentioned, and clarity has been given. But when it was mentioned the first time, people heavily disputed this and said this is a bad thing. We've seen unions like NUPES and others who put out statements and said, what is this? This is this is absurd. How exactly, how can such a policy be made that children should not be chased away? And what people have turned this around to be is that you're encouraging people to show up whatever time. Yeah. And that's the message people have been going with. They're saying, oh, so people can show up anytime? Which, to be honest, the ministry never really say.
They never say that.
But people took it as that the government was encouraging pupils and parents to send their pupils at any time
to go to school.
But it's good the clarity came through from the permanent secretary himself, Dr. Mambwe, and him explaining that other corrective measures or disciplinary measures can be put in place.
And emphasizing that corporal punishment
should not be one of them.
Remains abolished.
So they're late, you want to whip them.
So that is out of the picture.
That is out of the picture. But you can put certain, disciplinary action.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to think what some of these options
could possibly be. But during my time, I think when I used to be a prefect, so I used to punish people. And so when people come late, I would obviously ask them to pick papers. Those that come extremely late, I would ask them to go and slash. And so those are the punishments that we could.
Do you ever meet some of these people years later?
Yes.
To punish?
Yes.
And how are your interactions?
They're just very normal. Our interactions are just very normal. Well, so for me, I think the key takeaway point from here is something that people are not even talking about. You've got pupils in these public schools that genuinely come from distant places and they walk kilometers to just get to school. All right? And so some are not late because they woke up late. No, some are late because the distance they'll have to cover to walk from home to school is just too, it's just too big, Chimweka. And I know that this is not a conversation that many, could have had, but I think that is one reality that, that is so true.
But Andrew, I mean, let's be honest. I think even in those contexts, usually this can be in rural areas, and I believe even
in urban areas.
In the rural areas, there could be certain exemptions or maybe understanding even by the teachers or the administrators, the school administrators in those areas. But if you're going to bring it, especially in these urban areas, because we're also seeing in urban areas where pupils are showing up late, parents are sending their children to school.
And they've got different reasons
late.
For why they're showing up late.
What could be the reasons?
And one of the reasons is what I'm giving you, that others just genuinely come from distant, far places.
Okay,
genuinely.
I'm trying to get to that, because even when you talk about distant places, Andrew, if you're going to school every day, even just in 2 weeks, I should know how long it takes me to get to my destination, and therefore I need to work around that. There's no way you can be late year after year. Every term you're coming through late.
That's what I was saying.
Then that just becomes an excuse. Within a space of 1 week or 2 weeks, you should figure out how long it's going to take for you to get from point A to point B. Therefore, if you need to start off earlier, then you just have to start off earlier.
And people have got different reasons for why they go to school late.
What else could be the reason?
Have you ever gone to school late?
I have.
For what reason?
And the times I have, it's just because of my poor planning or poor preparation. Maybe I woke up late. Maybe I did not put certain things I need to put late. Those are reasons.
That's your reason. That's your reason.
But is that valid enough?
Well, to you it could be valid, but let's pick another caller. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you, sir.
Yes, sir, you are talking to Edwards.
Mr. Edward Mulenga. Muyenga.
Yes, from 10 miles.
From 10 miles. How is 10 miles?
10 miles is fine.
Is that where they are fixing the road? Is that 6 miles or 10 miles?
It was, I think, 6 miles area.
6 miles area.
All right, Mr. Muyenga, what's your contribution this evening? Okay, seem to have a bad network there, but if you can please call us back. Seem to have a challenge with the connection there. But just before Mr. Muyenga came through, we're talking about this issue of late reporting, and I think, Andrew, we shouldn't be able to make excuses if we report late, especially if we do it so often.
Yeah, well, I agree.
Because there are times, yes. the times, yes, out of human nature, something will happen. Maybe something. Sometimes people have genuine reasons. Maybe there was a flat tire, there was an accident on the way to school. These things get to happen, but especially for those who report late often, then it means there's a problem. There's a problem that has not been fixed.
There's a problem, but
by those pupils.
The ministry says that don't chase them away when they come to school. Ensure that they get to class and they learn because that is their right.
And in fact, the ministry says punctuality remains a non-negotiable expectation in schools because it reflects discipline, which has been a concern. Oh, you're now taking away the component of discipline, of responsibility and respect. But what they're saying is do not chase that pupil away.
And it's good that they put two words together, non-negotiable expectation. It's an expectation. All right, so they expect that you can come, that you need to come early.
In fact,
but you can come late.
In most schools, it's a rule. It's a requirement because every school has rules.
Yes, but
so every school has rules. The same way. I'm saying, you not and you get to see. Just recently, I took my daughter to a new school. And part of what you are given is the guidelines. The
guidelines, yes.
Yeah, I know your child is still very young and so on. Yes. So you've probably seen that as well. So you have that there, and you find that for a number of schools, it's written there, and you sign as well as a parent. You sign that you ensure that you also do your part in your child adhering to these rules, and if not, there'll be consequences.
That's so interesting because when that statement came out, I also thought it was false, all right? When I showed my wife that, look at what is trending. There was a day my boys went to school late. In fact, they woke up at 7:30. They're supposed to report at 7:30. So my wife told them, you're not going to school because you're late. And even called the teacher that these boys are not coming to school because they're late. And I said, but why didn't you allow them to go? Because they go to a private school. It's not a government school that we're paying for this. Even when they're late, they have to learn. Says no, they have to be disciplined. They can't be waking up, late, and all that. So when this came out, it just made sense, and I felt vindicated that look, my children can go to school at any time because the ministry has said.
Well, at the same time, if your children are not are known to be punctual, and that was a case in isolation. The same way that your wife called the teacher, she should have called and possibly explained. And there would probably be an understanding. But if your boys have got a habit and known for constantly being late, then definitely you should be ashamed to even make that call. But if it's a case in isolation, you should be able to explain. And they are human beings as well. As much as they're administrators, they're human beings, and there should be some level of understanding. So this particular issue, Andrew, at the end of the day, with the varying contributions that have come through from even teachers, because some teachers have commented on this. We've seen the unions, of course, and other organizations giving to comment, even just general members of the public generally who have given their thoughts on this. What we've seen from a lot of people, this has been heavily resisted. A lot of people have not been for this particular idea, and I do not know if this clarification will settle the matter. But a lot of people seem to be against this move by the ministry.
And I think it's also just part of poor reading on our end as parents, because this is not a new phenomenon. It's always been there. So how come teachers, are now criticizing part of what they must know? Part of what they must know is that you can't chase away a pupil when they come late. This is not a new phenomenon.
You know what this also reminds me of? There was a suggestion. By a businessman, Matthew Mohan, based in Kabwe. I think he's got aspirations to contest as Member of Parliament. He raised another argument that even for children who have not paid school fees, they should not be chased from school. For those who've got parents who've delayed to pay school fees. Because, I think a lot of schools would do this where at some point maybe the children will be asked to go away, or they'll be taken maybe somewhere in isolation. I mean, there's also a lot of debate around that. People should be still allowed to learn, but I know it's a completely different.
We need to ask the Ministry of
perhaps get the ministry's perspective of that, especially for the private schools, like you mentioned. Maybe for the government schools, there could be a different application of this particular policy, but a lot of people will also be asking around the private schools, because a lot of parents feel because they've paid,
yes,
they need to get their money's worth, and their children should still go into a classroom and learn, even if they are 30 or 45 minutes late.
I don't know how, if there are two policies or two laws around education in Zambia, because there's private schools and there's government schools.
Exactly.
And what I'm aware of is that what applies at a government school must apply at a private school, and that's why even the calendars are the same. And so it would be interesting to really get the position of government and the Ministry of Education on that particular issue that you've stated of pupils who haven't paid their fees or delayed paid their fees. Are they supposed to be chased? What I know for a fact is that at the University of Zambia, when you haven't paid your examination fee or you haven't paid your tuition fees,
you don't even see your results.
You don't see your results. You write the exams, but you don't see them.
Even that as well.
But
also comes with a lot of resistance, because for years we've been seeing what seems to be some sort of attempt to do away with it, where people will not be allowed to write the exams because they've not paid. And we've seen the different student unions coming in and saying that they've resolved the matter. But I think successfully, people have still been able to sit for the exams, but their results get to be withheld until they clear those fees. Today,
Information and Media Permanent Secretary Mr. Tabo Kawana witnessed the evacuation of musician General Ozzy, whose real names are David Banda, and his colleague by the Zambia Flying Doctor Service from Monze to Mainasoko Medical Center in Lusaka following a traffic accident. Mr. Kawana reaffirmed government's unwavering commitment to providing quality health care to all citizens, underscoring the importance of equitable access to medical services. The Zambia Flying Doctor Service remains a vital component of government's efforts, playing a pivotal role in ensuring timely medical evacuations regardless of geographical location or social status. The service is available to all Zambians, with today's evacuations including that of musician General Ozzy, demonstrating government's emphasis on equal access to quality healthcare. But is it true
that it's available to all Zambians?
Do you think it's true? Do you think what Mr. Kawana is saying is true here?
I think it's true. I think it is true.
Okay.
I think it is true, but has it been applied to?
That's what I'm asking.
Or Zambians? That is a different question. But is it available? I think it is. But has it been provided? I think should be another situation. But one thing I've come to realize, because I've seen a lot of comments, what is so special about Ozzy? Is he more Zambian? Is he? People should not run away from the fact that when people find themselves in the limelight or get to be regarded as public figures, and I would not even say celebrity, I'll just say public figures, because this is broad. Public figure could be a politician, could be a musician, it could even be a doctor who's just known. For example, people like Dr. Aaron Njajati, he's become a public figure even in his line of work as a health professional. So a public figure could be someone from any particular field. But as long as somebody gets to reach a point where they become a public figure, they become of public interest, and they can reach a point where they're of national interest, actually. So I don't think people should be very surprised when a public figure gets in some sort of treatment that will be different from, or that not everybody else can receive, because by the nature of that person being a public figure, they have exposed themselves to the rest of the country, which not everybody else is either ready for, courageous, to do. And for others, they don't even plan it. Some people, it just happens to them because maybe they're so good at what they do, and then they eventually become a public asset or of interest to the whole public. We've seen this happen even for certain politicians, where a certain politician gets to be evacuated out of the country. People say, hey, but how come? But how come? But the government has also mentioned that this is something that they can also do even for other citizens as well who are not in the public eye. But it definitely gets a lot of attention. Sometimes we just may not even know because it's not publicized. They may have done this for other citizens who are not famous, who are not public figures, but we would not really know because they're not public figures. So in the case of people like General Ozzy, it definitely get the attention because this person is a public figure. So the conversation will be around that person because they are a public figure, and it will be different for somebody who isn't. So in this case, I do believe that this is available for all Zambians, but even for the information itself to reach the relevant authorities who should take this up also needs to be looked at. For a public figure, when this accident happened, it made a lot of buzz through the social media and so on, and definitely reached the attention of the relevant authorities. But if somebody who is not is faced with the same kind of information, we also need to look at what type of information gets out to the relevant authorities. How quickly does this information reach out to them, and what sort of response gets to go out?
Let's quickly look at the pictures that we did put together. These are pictures where Mr. Thabo Kawana was receiving General Ozzy with his colleague that he was involved in an accident with, but also government did announced today that they were evacuating conjoined twins from Kapiri Mposhi and another patient from Kabwe district for specialized care. And this really is highlighting the dedication to providing complex medical services that the country could provide today. And so even when people ask how special is this person, who do you expect that must use those services? Because those services are available to all of us Zambians that find ourselves in this situation. These are unforeseen situations that we find ourselves in, and the Ministry of Information has made it very clear that every Zambian, every taxpayer, me and you, wherever you're watching from, all the services, are available to all of us, and they must be demanded, from our government. And so that's General Ozzy. Not looking, to be in a very bad state. Obviously, the accident happened a few days ago. It was head-on collision. The other person who was driving the other motor vehicle died on spot. That was a cop. He died on the spot. But we thank God that there are people that were, alive, and this is including Artist General Ozzy. I
know there's been also some concern around the life of the police officer. Again, it comes back to what I was saying earlier. So perhaps people have also felt that there hasn't been much attention has gone towards the family of the police officer. Others even feel that the person who was driving, the person who was General Ozzy, has not gotten as much attention. But we'll reiterate this, that some of my friends even joke about this as well, that if, for example, when a vehicle and you notice one of our colleagues is not driving as he should be. Some of my friends even joke that if something had bad to happen to us in this vehicle and we all perished, God forbid. But my friends would joke, say the headline would be Chumweka and 3 others. But then that just speaks towards maybe the reality of how some of these things get to happen. You have a public figure there, and perhaps they'll get more visibility, but that again should not say that the relevant authority should not pay attention to the concerns of the other people affected. In this particular case, unfortunately, a life has been lost, and which even reminds me, Andrew, that part of the conversation around this is that there's been what seems to be conflicting statements. On one end, there was an eyewitness account that had, in a nutshell, given people the impression that the vehicle of the police officer was in the wrong lane and therefore leading to the accident, while the police have given a different statement. Of course, the police being officials, we're meant to believe what the police are saying, but we still have members of the public, some members of the public who are skeptical about what the police is saying, especially that it involved a fellow police officer, and some people feel that perhaps they are being shielded. But there have been conflicting statements that have come to around this. But the fact that a life has been lost, definitely sad news for the family, and all I can say is condolences to them. I saw some videos of the widow visiting the hospital and after getting the news, and it was quite sad to see. We do hope that also the government gets to come in and support. Well, most likely, definitely they will, because he was a serving officer. So definitely the government will have to come in and give that support to the family.
The Flying Doctor Service has received a new aircraft. That's the aircraft we are seeing there, including a helicopter, significantly enhancing its operational capacity to reach remote areas and provide timely assistance. So we thank the government of the Republic of Zambia for enhancing this service by the Flying Doctors. That is all we could accommodate on tonight's edition of Diamond Live. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Tonight was the People's Edition, where you call in and give us your contributions throughout the show. So we really appreciate that you kept us company and we kept you company in discussing national issues. My name is Andrew Mansa. Thank you so much for watching once again.
Well, I know Andrew Mansa saying the People's Edition is too... I think we must mention, because the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Arts did actually share on their social media that the minister himself will be joining us on tonight's edition of Diamond Live, Elvis Nkandu. But unfortunately, we've not been able to get through to him this evening, and therefore was not able to make it. But we took this time also just to interact with you, to get your calls and your contributions to what's been making news in the country as of today. My name is Jumwega Chileshe. Thank you for watching. We're back on Wednesday.